Well, happy Mother's Day, everybody. Yeah, I know it's Friday, but Sunday is Mother's Day, and I just want to wish everyone happy Mother's Day and encourage you to be at First Baptist with your whole family. Sunday, our worship services at 8:30, 9:45, and 11 o'clock, and we have hundreds and hundreds of carnations so the kids and grandkids can take one to their mom, their grandmother, who's present in the service with them. So you be here on Mother's Day. We are in Proverbs 17 today, and man, this is a great chapter. Several verses are spoke to me, but one of the things that jumped out at me is how there were several verses in this chapter of Proverbs that talk about strife, about conflict. So let's look at some of those if you don't mind. Starting at chapter 17, verse 1. He said, "Better is a dry morsel and quietness with it than a house full of feasting with strife." It's better to have a little bit of food with peace than a whole lot of stuff and a lot of fighting, a lot of strife. Yeah, I think there's wisdom in that. And just because you have stuff doesn't mean you have peace. Look at verse 9. He who conceals a transgression seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates intimate friends. Now, yes, we know there are times to tell when someone does something wrong. But you don't have to tell everything you know about everything all the time. There are just some people who like to keep things stirred up, create problems between people, conflict, like to gossip. And the Bible says love sometimes means you just are quiet. And you don't do that. You don't create strife and separate friends by gossiping all the time. Verse 14, he said, "The beginning of strife is like letting out water. So abandon the quarrel before it breaks out." You know, a small stream of water, a small leak, if left unattended, just gets bigger and bigger until eventually the dam breaks, so to speak. And so he says, when you sense that starting in you and you're getting mad and you're wanting to quarrel and you're wanting to fight and you sense it, pull back, because if you don't, it's like that dog chasing its tail, or two people going tit for tat, and it just gets bigger and bigger and worse and worse. So you got to stop. It's easier to stop it when it's small and just starting than it is later when it's big and out of control. Look at verse 19. He who loves transgression loves strife, and he who raises his door seeks destruction. The one who loves transgression, wrong, sin, breaking the law, loves. There are just some people who like doing things they're not supposed to do because they just love creating chaos. And the second part of the verse where he says the one who raises or elevates the door or the gate seeks destruction, it's the idea of us elevating, supporting someone who's a troublemaker, elevating to a position, a higher rank or a higher place of influence or authority, elevating someone who likes to create things stirred up, create conflict, create chaos. No, we're not supposed to elevate those kind of people where they can make things worse, because all that's going to happen is it's going to end up destroying things. So don't do that, he says. And then one last verse on strife and conflict, verse 27, where it says, he who restrains his words has knowledge. He who restrains, the one who holds back his speech has knowledge, and he who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding. Holding back your words, holding back the anger when it starts, all of those things. That's the person who has knowledge and understanding, a cool spirit. Because the hot-headed man, the person who likes to stir the pot, the person who likes to argue all the time, who likes to keep things stirred up, God says is not a smart person. So those are just some verses about strife. A couple of the verses that I liked in this proverb, this chapter of Proverbs, verse 5, where he says, he who mocks the poor haunts his maker, and he who rejoices at calamity will not go unpunished. The second part of that verse, you're happy that something went bad for somebody. God's not happy that you're happy something went bad for somebody else. the first part of the verse, the one who mocks the poor taunts his maker. In other words, wow, I mean, think about that for a minute. God is saying when you mock poor people, you're mocking God. And then verse 6, grandchildren are the crown of old men, and the glory of sons is their fathers. I think every grandparent would say, yeah, that's true. And so what's he saying in this chapter of Proverbs? Well, I could summarize the verses I selected with this. Be a peacemaker, not a troublemaker. Be someone who calms things down instead of someone who stirs the pot. And love your grandkids. And kids, love your parents. That's it for me in this chapter. I look forward to seeing you Sunday as we worship the Lord and celebrate mothers on Mother's Day. And then Monday as we jump back into Exodus, we'll be in chapter 23. God bless you. Have a great weekend and see you in church Sunday.